So, welcome. So for everyone who's just tuned in, I'm Gwyneth Jones, and I'm here today with Marina Buksov, and we're going to be talking about herbalism and resilience in these times we live in. And I'm just going to jump straight in, Marina, and ask you to introduce yourself and give us a little background of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. We had you on my podcast recently, the Holistic Pharmacy Podcast. And my background is in pharmacy. I'm a PharmD doctor of pharmacy, and I come from a background of retail, independent community setting. And it got me on a path to study more traditional herbal medicine and other types of healing modalities through my own healing journey and also professionally trying to find something that truly aligns with the way that I want to live in harmony with the environment and nature and the natural world. And this journey brought me to build my own business in education and coaching others through their healing journeys and building community around other people that come from the conventional healthcare setting that are looking to really embody their true healing gifts without just leaning on the conventional drugs and surgical options that are a lot of the times pushed by the industry and just by what's standard of care nowadays. So I had a lot of grief along this journey about the background I come from and integrating into what I want to see in the world. And I met Gwyneth at Marie Forleo's B School training, and we connected over climate and other kinds of solutions over the years and mental health and such. So I'm truly excited to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you here. Yeah, and I think our work intersects in all these spaces of we are passionate about health, right? The healing of the self and the planet, and just all of the ways that that interacts. So, yeah, I'd love to ask you just a little bit more about your background because I love that you come from this background where you are a licensed pharmacist, but then you've also, you've gone, well, that's not enough. Let's also bring in the kind of plant medicine and the herbs and all of the holistic stuff. So, yeah, I suppose so too, how much you'd like to share today, but was there a turning point for you when you realized that these herbs and deeper self-care practices were essential for your well-being?
Yes. So shortly after finishing pharmacy school, I found myself at like a quarter life crisis, personally, professionally, and in my relationships and the way that I view myself and the world. And what I found is that up to that point, I was like following the status quo and what's expected of me and meeting expectations and getting my career together and such. And it was exciting for me and it was fun and it was interesting. But then after I got that degree, I realized I don't really align with what that degree grants me and where I can go with that degree and what I can pursue further. And then I also started getting really sick at that time, different kinds of things, PCOS, acne, weird teary eye disease. So it was prompting me to look for answers. And I did try the conventional route for all these things. And unfortunately, I didn't get good advice outside of being on birth control, antibiotics, and getting surgical interventions done, which I actually did try all of those things, believe it or not, because at the time I believed that was the authority figure. And, if they're not presenting me any other options, I kind of just went for it. But because all of that failed, essentially, I not only felt like I was a victim of medical trauma after that experience because no other options were presented and these options did not work. I then started seeking other kinds of modalities and I tried everything under the sun that I was aware of. And it included things like energy healing and acupuncture and Reiki and all kinds of stuff. But really, when I started looking into herbalism, that was the first time I truly felt empowered, like I could go and take control and learn about these things and implement them into my life. And so I decided to pursue the path of clinical herbalism. And then that's what brought me to today.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. Well, and sorry to hear that the system was failing you, which, actually brings me to one of the things I wanted to ask you, because, yeah, one of your articles recently, you said your body is not failing, the system is. And I'd love to unpack a little bit more about what you meant by that and how that kind of links into our wider topic today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it comes from that feeling that I was describing of medical trauma or feeling guilty, like you're not making the right decisions and the choices that you're making are actually not helping you and you're getting worse and you're not healing. And so I feel like I internalized all of that and then I blamed for myself for going along with and then trusting those systems. And so it's kind of like that saying, you don't know what you don't know. And we have to be a little bit more compassionate towards that side of ourselves that did the best that they could, right? My version that I was before, she did everything she was aware of at the time. And then only through finding out different things and experimenting with different things, I now know that there are these different ways that I can have in my toolbox. And really, I think that's what freedom is, what we're all kind of searching for, what the human experience is leading us to desire and crave, is to be in control of our destiny, to be the master, right? To have free will and have the freedom to choose from different options available to us. And that's what I really see missing in the medical field, is that there's this accepted, indoctrinated approach and everything else is shunned. And even now, we had like the recent events here in America where Trump is making some claims, and we have RFK making some reforms, and it's bringing out a whole can of worms. And I think that science is all about asking the questions and not assuming that past thinking was the correct thinking and overturning the data and looking for new things. So just really speaks to the indoctrination that people are not even willing to consider. Uh, even what may seem like an outrageous claim, it should be examined, right? It should be examined and it shouldn't be demonized or shamed if you're considering X, Y, or Z.
Mm. So, speaking about all the things that are happening at the moment, so in the US, you're in the US, but also around the world. I don't think it's any surprise if people are tuning into this to say that, a lot of people are feeling very overwhelmed about, a lot of confusion about what is going on. I think I started this conversation with you originally because I just talked to so many people who were saying that they felt so exhausted, right? And it's not just the usual, oh, you need to sleep 8 hours and make sure you're having walks and drinking water. It felt like this bone deep, just exhaustion. And I think we talked about it on your podcast a little as well. So, yeah, I guess what would you say to that exhaustion from your own perspective, and then maybe from the herbal perspective as well?
Yeah, I think about this a lot. I think you can't escape it in the everyday interactions that we have, whether it's from people in our lives, our relationships, or even just being immersed in social media. A lot of the times, that is how we interact nowadays with other people. It's gotten to the point where social media is now a source of quote unquote like a dopamine rush for you to kind of find out what's going on and look to interact with people. And the intention there is good, right? Because relationships is what makes our lives have meaning and purpose and gives us pleasure. But it's become tainted because there's just so much overstimulation from sources like social media as well as regular media. as well as all the physical and biochemical things in our environment that are toxic to our health. And so our body is just like constantly on high alert and in sympathetic fight or flight mode and just looking for danger because there's just so much stimulation, so much information, and so much negativity as well from those sources with controversies and the information and the knowledge of bad, terrible things happening in places in the world that are just creating this feeling for us that we're not safe and we need to be on guard.
Yeah, so that constant overstimulation, putting us in a state of chronic fight or flight and stress, right? So, yeah, what is the impact that has on our health then? And yeah, what do we start to do to counter it?
Well, our body is infinitely wise, and I believe the reason we're feeling the fatigue and this overwhelm and the anxiety and the stress is letting us know it's a signal to tell us that we need to slow down, we need to unwind, we need to integrate, we need to go into more introspection and this mode where we get to discern what we allow in and what we need to set a boundary on. And the fact that we are all feeling this way, I think, again, is just a symptom that we need to be aware of. And instead of feeling bad, right, or ashamed or guilty that my body is betraying me, I can't get out of bed, I'm feeling sick. I think we need to go deeper and ask, what is this telling me, right, about how I'm currently living in my reality and how I'm taking care of my body? And are there other ways that I can actually release some of the burdens and the stress that my body is either literally facing or there's this perception? My body perceives danger when there actually isn't imminent death threats or something like that that you need to be aware of.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because if you're not in an immediate death threat situation, but you're looking online, you're feeling like it's coming, you're still sort of bracing yourself, I guess, on some level for impact. And that's causing your nervous system to be in that fight or flight stage. So, would you say there are specific herbs that can help kind of soothe the nervous system? Because we know, right? Like, of course, things like meditation, singing, walking, time in nature, less time scrolling on social media. Of course, we know all these things are good for us, but yeah, if somebody's kind of flirting with herbalism and they don't know anything about it, what would you say to them?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited that you are bringing this up because this is what we're going to be going into in our workshop coming up on October 23rd and just really diving into the different categories and examples of how to work with specific herbs. But I will just broadly share that yes, there are things that you can do to empower yourself and improve your health and also help reestablish the mind-body connection and rewire your nervous system so that it can perceive what's truly important and help you trust your own intuition again and help you set those boundaries that we're talking about because there is this dichotomy, right, of the present moment, which we talk about in spirituality, right, like meditating or doing things that put us in this flow state, which allow us to truly feel alive because we're only alive moment to moment, right? So we definitely want to keep sight of that. And we also want to keep sight of establishing a better future, right? More potential energy that we can use in the future. So it's always this dance between like establishing this presence and then also building resilience for the future, like future reserves. And so herbalism, it has amazing, amazing tools that we can tap into. And this also has to do with being in tune and connected to the natural world and being stewards of our environment, which is truly the lesson that I learned through herbalism is that I don't exist in a vacuum and my troubles and my ego is not alone, right? It's not this void of pain and suffering that only I am privy to. It's exactly what you shared in the beginning, that we're all collectively feeling these burdens. And so I think we all need to collectively rethink the systems that are not working for us. And herbalism is a huge, huge pillar that we can not only build individual resilience through by taking that control of what we're putting into our environment, what we're intentionally consuming, whether it's physically consuming the herbs or like a spiritual connection with the herbs or just in our environment, right? Being around the plants and going out in nature, like you said. These are the primary tools that I feel like are little to no effort and very cheap as well, that you can tap into to really decrease those burdens that we were talking about, really make your body feel more alive, less fatigued, etc. And those blase generic recommendations to go out and look at the sun and be in nature, right? And take some deep breaths, they truly are foundational, and it's truly being in sync with what our bodies are designed to thrive on is what herbalism teaches us. And so by us caring for the environment cares for us back. By us spending more time in nature, we get more of the benefits. And by us actually engaging with the herbs and communing with them in various ways, consuming them, etc., and being more intentional with them, we actually get more health benefits, and it starts to reshape our internal world, our microbiome, our thoughts and patterns. So I found this really, really beautiful synergy through working with plants. And one category that I could name off the bat to just speak to the nervous system piece is nervines. So nervines are a category of herbs that help us on this moment to moment basis, on this as needed basis, to help us tap into the parasympathetic, to help us calm down some of the worry, anxiety, fear, whatever kind of pattern you find yourself in, overwhelm. And there's a lot of different categories too. There's adaptogenic herbs for your adrenal system and the overall fatigue, and in creating those reserves that I was talking about for the future. There are mineral rich food like herbs for kind of like an extra vitamin and nutrient density boost to your regular diet. Those, I would say, are probably the top three that you can start working with that are extremely safe and extremely beneficial for these times.
Thank you. And I hear you're also kind of suggesting working with herbs is about so much more than the herbs themselves, and it's kind of opening a portal for us into communion with the earth, right? And kind of the societal transformation that we need to see. Am I picking that up right?
That's right. This was the most profound lesson for me personally, coming from this conventional indoctrination that, we just study these substances and we just use them for our own well-being. And, it's like a one-sided relationship of consumerism, right? And the capitalist model of extraction and reduction. But the herbal world completely turns that on its head. And even when you're getting into it for personal healing, you can't help but be immersed in all the rest of the synchronicity and the synergy that it offers. And in terms of reciprocity, there definitely is one there where, again, when you steward for the land, care for the earth, and engage in reciprocal practices, you get even more benefit. And even the act of making yourself a cup of tea, let's say, right, that is medicine. Even just sitting down and being more intentional with the bite of your food and tasting the kitchen herbs that you're putting on there is medicinal, right? Like you said, like singing, right? Talking, placing an intention, breathing, all of that can be done in context of working with the plants as well. And the intention and the slowing down part is just as important.
So, what would you say? is your vision for the future like that gives you hope?
Yeah, great question. And one that I also think about is sort of like what's the perfect society and utopia and what's a perfect healing system. And so I think I'll say the first thing that we need to do is on an individual level, take responsibility and also take the power of making personal choices and advocate for making personal choices and decisions in our own life. So whether that's becoming more earth-centered, right, or led by your intuition, or asking more questions, or following people that have a similar point of view and getting some wisdom from them. These are the first steps where we can cultivate, again, that opportunity, that freedom for ourselves. So when we are not aware, when we don't know, right, we just can't make another choice. So cultivating that knowledge base and creating more opportunities to, let's say, heal through herbs. That would be my number one vision on an individual level that can invite healing and understanding and make you just really feel like you're part of something, not only of a collective of humans, but you're part of this earth as part of the creatures, just one of the creatures that inhabit this place. And we're, I think, branching off of that, imagining that you're part of a circular ecology, right? Where man is not at the epicenter, but we're part of this beautiful collection of symbiotic organisms that are all potentially can all thrive together rather than extract everything from all these other systems until there's nothing left for us. And then we don't have anywhere else to extract from. And so that is a threat to us as well. So, like going from the individual to that global and collective mindset eventually. And I think what that could look like is if you're the one in your family and your community that's interested in this work, then eventually that trickles into the community, and then you brainstorm on different ways that, again, to make different systems that we currently are operating under, to make them more sustainable, to make them less extractive, to make them more regenerative. And then when it comes to the healing arts, yeah, making this part of the conventional, making this part of public health education for the young generation, making gardening and working the land not something that like peasants do, um, but something that we all have access to. And so I think it's going to have to mean restructuring the way we do city life as well. So there's a lot to do, everybody. There's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do. Definitely. Have you noticed interest in herbalism growing in the last few years?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went through my little mini crisis about 10 years ago. And since then, I've just seen it grow exponentially. And I have seen it talked about. Maybe it's just, my bias looking at my feed and my community. But I certainly see even in the conventional model that I come from, people are much more open to hearing about this. Whereas before, they were it's calling it woo woo and not enough science or evidence, etc. And you'll still see that. You'll still see some ugliness there in the controversial space. I was even thinking, LinkedIn used to be a place where we were pretty cordial and professional, but now I see like, just kind of the same sort of mean streaks with people who disagree, and post it on feeds and such. So I think it's still there, it's still pervasive, but I do see a lot more interest and openness to other solutions. And frankly, I think we really need to be more open-minded because our system is not working and we're just overburdening the system with the current way that we have as far as like solutions pipelines. The current solutions are not adequate, not even anywhere close to adequate to meet the demand of how much sickness there is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been said a lot, right? We have a sick care system, not a healthcare system. So we don't try to prevent things before it becomes too late either. Yeah. So one more question, I guess I'd ask you before we see if we have any other questions is, yeah, I'm really curious. This is just my curiosity, but about your ancestral line and like what do you know about the ways that your ancestors maybe used herbs and connected with the natural world?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I will just add an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of a cure, right? That's literally the motto I live with. And I think in the economic system that drives some of these healthcare decisions, they really, really need to keep that in mind when setting up policies because the public at large is not aware. And the ancestral question, I think, is really important because I feel like I'm part of the generation that's finally reclaiming ancestral knowledge and looking to the past to see what was done differently and what we shouldn't just throw out, right, with the baby and the bathwater. It seems like the generation right before us, they sort of wanted to modernize so badly, or there were systems in place that dictated that they do so, right? That created this narrative of let's move into a life of luxury and let's have, all the automation and assembly line kind of stuff going on so we can produce more and then we can consume more and then we can market the consumerism back to you. So it was a whole thing. And I think our parents and the generation before us just kind of fell into that idea that, oh wow, this is easier, because in a lot of ways it is easier to consume than it is to go work the land, eat off the land, have the direct communion with nature. It's not an easy life. There are definitely a lot of challenges, and we're at the mercy of some of the natural um, occurrings, right? And conditions that may not be so favorable. But the thing is, I think we need to find that middle ground of like, what can we use and what can we get inspired by from what our ancestors used to value and do? Because so many generations before this past one had so much wisdom that was kind of like forgotten about once we moved into this era of machines and now AI, right? The new thing that's coming up, the internet, social media, like all of these things that are now present that were not present in the past. And how can we actually repurpose these cool, amazing, fast-paced systems that we do have in a more intentional and meaningful way that does honor this balance, and actually values what is real and what's important and not this inflated idea of quote unquote luxury. And so for my ancestors, I have a lineage of Slavic ancestors. So my line comes from Belarus. And I know that my own grandma, so right, just one generation over, she was a midwife and she worked with plants as well. And I'm actually going to be doing a mugwort dieta coming up, and that's going to reconnect me to my lineage because I know that's one of the plants that we had in abundance, and it's a plant that midwives and other wise women definitely knew about and used. And so I think we can all trace back our own lineages and see that, what, just one generation ago, we still had the knowledge of let's reach for an herb, right, for a minor ailment or to do some kind of minor self-care. We don't need to go to the drugstore and buy something that was manufactured in a lab. We can just go outside and see what's growing in our yard. And again, if you live in a city, this might be easier said than done, right? Because you may not have a backyard and the places around you, even in the suburbs, may be sprayed with chemicals and such. So again, we need to see like what were these ancient ways that created harmony and synergy and symbiosis with the land versus like the war on pests, the war on cancer, the war on this. Like, it's not us versus them. Because if it were, we're playing a losing battle, let me tell you right now. The bacteria are much, much, much more resilient than we are, and they're working at a much faster pace. So we need to find a way to get this synergy and this symbiosis back.
Strikes me we need more healing like women in the space as well, because it just feels like such a masculine Western energy thing of, fighting everything with, yeah, these chemical create, things created in a lab with chemicals. Of course, it's a balance, right? You're not going to fix a broken leg with herbs, but everyone that I know still knows some herbal remedies, right? Like ginger, honey, lemon, and maybe some other things when you have a cold. I feel like a lot of them haven't been lost, but there's so many that are yeah, in danger of being lost. So
Yeah. And then they're marketed to you in the drugstore, right? Like, don't just buy ginger and lemon and honey in the grocery store, or don't like keep your own bees, God forbid, right? Just go to the store and buy a candy that has all of that and suck on it.
yeah, with some extra sugar thrown in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, didn't the US try to patent turmeric or something? Or they did? There's some really strange stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, there are a lot of strange things for sure. They tried to patent fire cider, which is a remedy of different pungent herbs and some apple cider vinegar and honey, for like the respiratory system and the cold winter system to just like heat up your body and support your immunity. Yeah, and I think it's these common knowledge kind of pieces that we sort of forgot about. Like, yeah, this is common knowledge, and instead, our authority is extracted, right? Extrapolized from us. And so now we can't be the person that's communing with our medicine. We actually go out and we outsource the middle person to help us with it. So again, like you said, I'm not saying don't go to the doctor, don't go to the hospital, not at all. It's saying, let's have the basic self-care and survival skills for everybody. Let's teach ourselves all of that. Even if you're not in the healthcare field, it's still part of being a human, right? And maybe then our nervous system won't be so scared and fearful and threatened of everything that you hear is working against you, because you'll have the knowledge that even if something were to happen, you know the basics, right? And you know who to turn to and to build trust with. And right now, it's like we just have these extreme viewpoints and they're pitted against each other. And we really need to find the middle ground. Like, where do we find the wisdom from both and build on that? And so, if I were to have to go to the hospital because I'm in an acute crisis, like breaking my leg, God forbid, but I have also had to go to the hospital in my life for different things. So, when I did, luckily, when I became an herbalist, I knew what herb to take with me, because even though the hospital has their treatments and surgeries and drugs, they don't have the herbs that I know will help me. And me having these allies in my purse and being able to reach for them is really comforting and empowering. And they do help. They definitely help.
Great, thank you. So, shall we mention what we're going to be doing in our workshop on the 23rd of October?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super looking forward to that workshop, and it's really going to dive deeper into building this resilience and empowering ourselves through herbalism and also through other tools and techniques. Really just going to the root of why it is that we are in this meta crisis, or what perceptions we have about it, and what's truly something that we can control, and how we can learn about different herbs, how we can work with these herbs, and how we can do it in a very safe and supported way.
Yeah, and I'll also be bringing in a little from the work that reconnects. So, yeah, just some exercises to help us connect with the web of life, right? Through the body, of course, and through our ability to visualize, but really bringing us home to remembering that we're part of this a complex ecosystem as well, and not a separate self. Yes. So hopefully some of you will be able to join us there. I'll share the information below. So yeah, I don't see any questions. So you can just have a couple more from me if you want. I'm gonna ask you, what's your favorite herb?
Oh boy, that's a hard one. By the way, if anybody does have questions, please post them down under the live stream, and Gwyneth can tag me and I can answer some of those for you. And we do hope to see you at the workshop as well. As far as my favorite herb, that is such a difficult question. I feel like every time somebody asks me that, I have a different answer. So it's really, really difficult. For me, I think what I value about herbs in general is that they're so versatile. So even if I were to give you like a banal herb that maybe everybody knows about, it actually has so many other uses than maybe what you think of it for. Um, so I will repeat one of my answers from a previous class that I actually an interview that I had. So a rose. The rose family has a lot of medicinal plants, and we all know the rose, right? The romantic symbol and feminine, and then it has the thorns. So just the medicine of this symbolically is strong and potent, right? That it's soft and feminine, and yet it has these protective thorns and spikes. And there's a similar medicine that we use like that too called hawthorn, also in the rose family. But just to stick to the rose, like the petals can be used for just gentle astringent, so like drawing skin together, or same thing for the digestive tract. So like for like some GI disturbance, maybe like a little bit of loose stools and such. Rose is a gentle astringent. It could also be gently astringent for the uterus and the womb. We use other plants for that too, but rose is something that we can do. Um, Energetically, it's also used a lot for softening, just like the petals are soft, but for the heart. So whether it's used as a flower essence or like a spiritual bath or a tea, or any other form, it's got this softening into your grief, right? And this, I think, really goes along with our theme today, right? So it's real. The grief that we're feeling, it's real. And we're not meant to stuff it down, avoid it, suppress it, pretend it's not there, or drown under it. We're actually meant to move through it and alchemize it. And the reason we feel anything is because we're humans, right? And so we get to move through these strong, powerful emotions with more grace and more support with plants like rose, many other plants, really. But it's a very gentle, like softening into one's heart. So not just romantically, but in your own soul, and even in times of despair and such, it can be a great ally. And then we can also use the fruit called rose hips for immune boosting and vitamin C. And we can squeeze the seed of that and make medicine for skin and collagen and wrinkle production. So it's really quite versatile, all the parts of the plant that I mentioned. And most plants in herbalism, we use different parts of the plant slightly differently with slightly different purposes and energetics.
Nice. Yeah, I love the rose as well. And of course, you can make rose water from the petals as well. Yeah, great. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll just check again if there are any questions. No, okay. That's all right. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything you would have liked me to ask you?
I'll just add about the rose, it also is gently cooling. So for anything that's like inflamed, it's also one that you can turn to. And yeah, really plants will help us and they'll act differently to different people. So there's this beautiful magic that happens when we know something about a plant and something about its indications, and then we apply it in a person, and the person has their own pattern and energy that they're working through. And then there's this beautiful, again, synergy that happens when these two meet. And so it's going to be slightly different because we're all so different and the plants are so different. And there's a lot of variables and factors in herbalism because of this beautiful intersection where we don't really know exactly what will happen, but we have some ideas. And the dose is also variable, and the dosage form, we can choose the one that's most appropriate. So I think that could be kind of like scary. This is something that is not easy to standardize and to start a consumerism model around. Even though, of course, they're trying to do that with the supplement industry, which is actually pharmaceutical adjacent. The more and more I'm looking into it, of course, it's, I think, better because they're using better ingredients and more complete whole spectrum medicine, not just extracting like the vitamin C that truly degrades as soon as it's out of the fiber and container of the plant, etc. But here's what I want to say about herbalism is that that is actually its strength as well. The fact that we can't really standardize it, the fact that we can't always predict it is actually allowing us to play with it and to experiment with it. And again, a lot of it, if you know the basic foundations, can be a very beautiful and fun and safe experiment where you just need to know what you're doing and then you can play.
I like that. Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Well, come and play with us on the 23rd of October as well. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. All right.
Likewise, yes, I hope to see you all on our workshop and you can comment below. You can reach me on my website, marinabuksov.com. You can shoot me a note there. And I'm also on social media. If you want to come through and follow me, I'd love to have some new faces.
Thank you. I'll share all that below the video as well. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, there we go. I've